Hello, my name is Gary Sundquist, and this is my final project presentation for Professor Smither's CST 247 course. I chose the credit card approval system because I worked with credit unions and credit card data with my current employer. I thought this application would give me a better understanding of how to track credit card information for credit union members. I chose Metro Storage as the company to adapt the project code for because I used to work for a storage facility called Metro Storage, and I knew I could adapt the credit card approval system to meet the needs of a storage facility. I made a few modifications to the credit card approval system, such as modifying the transaction page, adding transaction history to the customer page, and also how the application is open to meet the needs of the storage facility. The facility would not want to give everyone full access to the application, and it would also need to process transactions for specific items that are listed at specific prices. So let's take a look at the code for the application. We can take a look at the database connection, which specifies the directory for the location of the database to be referenced in the application. And then the customer data class, which contains the objects for the customers and the cards, and also an interface containing the customer ID, which is shared by both the customer class and the cards class. And there are several methods within the classes that are used throughout the application, such as like getting customer data and updating customer records or card records as well, and then processing transactions as well. Now let's take a look at the login form. The login form has two text boxes, one for the username, one for the password, and then a login button. And here it gets the customer's permission level, and then it opens up the main menu, and then it enables the forms based on the customer's permission level. So let's take a look at the main menu now. So these are the tool strip items that are either disabled or enabled. They're disabled by default, but if the user has permission to access these forms, they'll be enabled. And then there's also a file tool strip item, which contains a login, logout, and exit. The login is only enabled if no one's logged into the application, and then the logout is disabled at that time. And then when a user is logged in, the login's disabled, and then the logout is enabled so the user can log out. And then when a user does log out the application, it closes all of the open forms, but doesn't actually close the application itself. They need to click the exit button and close the entire application. And now let's take a look at the customer information form. So the customer information form, it allows you to create a new customer, it allows you to save an existing customer, create a new card for an existing customer, view customer transactions, close the form, and also there's a button to clear the entire field. Let's take a look at the code. So there's two ways to open up this form. You can either pass the customer ID into the form, which will automatically populate the fields and then allow you to save over that customer in the database. And when you do that as well, that's the only way that it'll populate with the transaction log, because obviously if it's a new customer, they won't have any previous transactions that are in the database. So now let's take a look at the card information form. The card information form, it's opened either through the customer information form or the view new form. And what happens is this form is passed the customer's ID and customer information so that it can populate with that specific customer's cards. And those cards are populated in this list box, and then whichever card is selected, the text fields here to the right, they're automatically populated with that card's information, such as the cardholder's name, card type, card number, the expiration date, the limit on the card and the amount currently available on that card. And when you click the select button, it'll populate the opened process transaction form with the selected card. And then you can add new cards to this customer. You can then save the new card. You can't rewrite existing cards. And then you can also close the form by clicking the close button. So let's take a look at the code. So this form is either opened by passing a customer object or a cards object. And this is just to close the form. This is to get all of the card information for the list box. So it's populating the list box with the card numbers based on the customer ID that's passed to the application. And then this is just updating all the text fields depending on which list box item selected. And then this method saves the application. It first validates the form to make sure that all the appropriate fields are filled out with the correct information. And then this is a new card button click event, so it clears all the forms and then it enables them so that they can be edited. And here's the validate form. It's just checking to make sure that the limit's correct, it's in the correct format, as well as amount available. Also ensuring that the card number is at least 16 digits. It's also checking that the expiration date's been updated. It's checking to make sure that a card type's been listed. And it also verifies that the card number doesn't already exist for this card member. Okay, now let's take a look at the process transactions form. And the process transaction form has a label that keeps track of the current system time for processing transactions. It's up here. And in this form, you can select a customer. When you select a customer, it's going to open up the View New form. And you will select a customer from the data grid view here and click the Open Transaction with Selected Customer, which will automatically populate the opened process transaction form with that customer's information. And if there isn't already a process transaction form opened, it'll open up a new process transaction form and populate it with the selected customer. And then you can also select the payment type here, either cash or card. If you select cash, the select card button is disabled and you can process the transaction, and it doesn't validate to make sure that you have enough funds because it assumes you do since you're paying with cash. However, if you select card and select a card from the account and you try to process a transaction but you don't have enough funds available on that card, it will provide you with an error message stating that there is insufficient funds on that card and it's unable to process the transaction. I believe that is under, yeah, the radio button. Change events. Hold on, let me find it. Here it is. It's under the process transaction click event. So it does check and ensures that there's enough funds on the account before processing the transaction. Then there also is form validation to make sure that items are selected to purchase and the total is not set to 0, and it'll display appropriate error message. And also that customer selected, payment method selected, a card is selected if the radio card button is checked. Now let's take a look at the View New form. Okay, in this form it contains 2 data grid views, one for customers and then one for all the cards in the database. And the data grid view that shows the customer data, it shows every customer in the database as well as how many cards are assigned to that that customer. And then the card data grid view, it shows all the card numbers in the database. It shows who is the card holder, which customer the card belongs to, the card type, and also the available balance for each card. And in this form you can click the new view selected. So if you select a customer and click the new view selected, it'll open up the customer information form, and it'll automatically populate it with that customer information. And then you can go ahead and either update that customer, you can create a new card record for that customer, or you can process a transaction for that customer if you click the open transaction with selected customer. If you go to the search view cards tab, the open transaction with selected customer button is disabled, and you can click on a card record and click the new view select it, and that'll open up the card information form, and it'll display the card records information. And that is it for this application. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to let me know. Thank you.